Hello and welcome to healthyhouseplants.com, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. Today's video is sponsored by our Amazon affiliate link, which you'll see in the description below. You'll also see in the description below any links to videos I mentioned in this video. So today I'm going to talk to you about why it's generally a good idea to repot houseplants once you buy them, once you get them home. You don't necessarily have to do it right away, but it is something that is it really helps plants if you can do it soon after you get them home. It could be within 2 or 3 or 4 months, but within some time period afterwards is always a good rule of thumb. There's various reasons. So here today I have Lucy, the spider plant that is in Revival series, and when I got her, I had her for about 2 or 3 months and noticed that she was starting to take a little bit of a nosedive, but that was kind of a good thing because I was able to do a Revival series on her. However, you can see now she looks very healthy. So what was happening, and I'll put the links for her, the series with her below, is that there's various things that happen, okay? So also have a fiddle leaf fig, that Ficus lyrata, that also was one of the reasons why you want to repot, and I'll put that link too. So one thing that happens is that the growers want to sell the plants. Now, generally speaking, they sell according to pot size. So not necessarily plant size, but pot size. So what they'll do, and this happened with the Ficus lyrata, is they will put them in the wrong size pot. They'll put them in a lot bigger pot than they should be in. So they put a littler, smaller plant in a bigger pot, and then they sell it for more. So you get it home and you think, well, this is the pot it came in. I mean, the plant looked pretty good when I got it, so it must be the right size pot, right? No, not necessarily. What happened most likely is it was repotted about a month before or so. It could even have been less before you found this lovely plant and bought it. And that's not enough time for the root rot to set in. But when it's in too big of a pot, and I talk about that quite a bit with my 2/3 plant to 1/3 pot ratio is what you're looking for. So when it's in too big of a pot, the plant will, within very shortly, start the root rot cycle. And I have a video on root rot and saving plant from it. However, you don't see the results of that root rot for quite a while. It could be a few months, but what will end up happening is the plant sort of seems to kind of start to shrink in its pot. When it starts to lose leaves, it gets yellowing leaves that fall off, the base becomes mushy, the plant starts to, then when you know it's really advanced, the plant will start to, the leaves will droop even though the soil is moist. That means that the roots have shut down, the roots have rotted. So, and that is all started by them taking probably what was most likely a perfectly healthy plant and putting it into too big of a pot, and then you come along and buy it. So if when you get the plants home, especially if they're too big of a pot, you've got like 2/3 pot to 1/3 plant, which is very common. You want the reverse, 2/3 plant to 1/3 pot. If you get that, if you see that when you get home, get that plant into a smaller pot. If you love that pot, go out and get a plant that's bigger and put it into that pot, or wait until they repot this plant and wait until it gets bigger to be put in that pot, okay? So that's one really good reason. Another one is what was happening with Lucy here is actually she had been sitting for a while, it looked like, in the nursery. So her soil had sunk in the pot. She didn't have a lot of soil, so she didn't really have enough soil. She also had been droughted. It looked like droughted on several occasions. She had a lot of brown leaf tips, so it was a very dry situation as well. So she needed some fresh, new soil, and that is another good reason to repot plants. You can tell they've been in this soil for a while. Another sign will be, it could be roots coming out of the bottom of the pot as well. So that's another good reason to repot. Another really good reason to repot is that the plants have been basically given what a grower told me years ago, when I was writing, I was a columnist with the LA Times garden section, and what she said to me was, she said it's off the record, but the growers refer to chemical fertilizers and chemical growth hormones as steroids for plants. So what they will do when they're getting the plants ready to sell at the nursery, in the garden center, right, they need to look good when they get there in the truck and the buyers pick the plants, is they will use chemical growth hormones and chemical fertilizers on the plants to get them growing really quickly, and they will look good at first. Sometimes they look a little bit too good. You'll notice that the plant just looks really robust and healthy and large, and well, they're basically hooked on those steroids. So you get the plant home. This is a very common scenario. The plant's looking really good. You've followed all the videos and the things you've read, and you've got it in perfect lighting, and you're watering correctly, and you're giving it tender, loving care, and talking to the plant, and you're fertilizing, etc., etc. And if it needs humidity, you give it humidity, and then it dies, and it looks like it dies. It's kind of dying a terrible death. All of a sudden it just starts to die. Well, a lot of times what's happening, and then when it starts to die back, is because it's not getting its fix. Then the roots will also die back in tandem, and then you start to get root rot on top of the whole thing. So it's just a big vicious kind of cycle, right? Because the plant is saying, well, you're doing all these things, where are my drugs? Give me my drugs. Because the chemical fertilizers and the chemical growth hormones, what they do to the soil is they will sterilize the soil. They will kill off all the good bacteria, beneficial bacteria in the soil. And when they do that, the plant has nothing to look for, nothing to live for, except for when you give the plant more chemical fertilizer and chemical growth hormone, which you can't even really get a hold of unless you're a grower, right? So this creates several problems as you're seeing here. And that's how the plant has its demise. But if you repot in a really good potting soil and use a nice organic fertilizer and make sure you have really good drainage, then your plant is going to have a really good healthy start living with you. So this is a soil that I like. It's Pro Mix. The Pro Mix BX I like, but there's other formulations. I'll put links below. My Green Gourmet houseplant food I use on the repots as well, and this link is below for that too. This has a natural growth hormone in it, which is alfalfa meal. So alfalfa meal in anything that you're getting fertilizer wise, even in potting soil wise, is a really good addition because it's a natural growth hormone. So basically what you're doing is you're taking them off of those steroids and putting them on a natural leafy green diet that's going to make them healthy. Okay, also drainage, really important. Sometimes you'll get the plants in soil that is not well draining, or it's too barky and too well draining. So that's another good reason to get them into a new potting soil. Another thing that happens when you get them into the Pro Mix BX or another similar, and I'll put other bags of of soils down there too. So if you get them into a really good soil, those soils will have additives including mycorrhizae, so mycorrhizal fungi. Mycorrhizal fungi are, don't worry about it, you're not going to see them, they're microscopic fungi. They are naturally outdoors in many plants. They attach to plant roots in exchange for bringing the plant in more nutrients and more water than the plant would on its own. Mycorrhizal fungi is used all the time for golf greens, that have real grass. Okay, so the root system gets much bigger and much stronger. So it's a really good addition for your houseplants, and it will make your houseplants very healthy, along with other good nutrients and good additives as well, organic additives. If you use a chemical fertilizer, however, in a good potting soil, what happens is that chemical fertilizer will either kill off the good bacteria in the soil, or it will cause it to go dormant. And then what happens, you're guessing it, the plant says, where are my drugs? drugs. I don't know where my drugs are. But if you pull back on those, you take away all those drugs and you go fully organic, what happens is the soil becomes self-sustaining. You create a self-sustaining environment within the soil for your plants, and in that regard what happens is you don't need to fertilize as often because the soil is processing the fertilizer that you already put in rather than it needing to get a main line of fertilizer of food. So keep that in mind, that these are all the good reasons to keep that an organic fertilizer. So don't try to mix it up. You get this really good organic soil, and then you want to use up with the chemical fertilizer you have in your cupboard or something. You need to go, if you're going to go organic, you need to go all the way organic. Okay, so another really good addition is worm casting. So you can add your own worm castings to your soil. It's really hard to kind of overdo worm castings. They're a very low source of nitrogen, so they don't burn the foliage of the plant or the roots. I have videos on that as well, and they have multiple micronutrients that are really good for your houseplants. Because remember, another good reason to repot is you are Mother or Father Nature for your houseplants. You are giving them this pot of soil, and that's what they got to live on, right? So the more healthy that soil is, the better off your plants are going to be. So that is why, many of the reasons why I would suggest repotting after purchase, or even after someone gives you a plant. Like I said, you can wait a little while, and I would not wait as long with the issue of the plant being in the wrong size pot. However, I would try to do that one as soon as possible. When the plants are low in the pot, as I mentioned that Lucy was here, I have a video on that too, that it's not good to have the plants too low in the pot. It creates a lot of pests and diseases can go on in there. So that would be another situation where you'd want to repot sooner than later. But say you just get the plant and it looks okay, but you're a little bit concerned, do think about repotting sooner than later. And even if the plant was going to be doing okay otherwise, guarantee when you switch it over to a really nice organic regimen, it's going to grow like gangbusters for you and grow faster and more beautiful than it would otherwise. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video, and please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.